Welcome to this UK general election special of Channels Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. The results are in and Boris Johnson's Conservative Party have delivered a stunning landslide victory in a general election fought on his promise to get Brexit done. The immediate consequence is that, for the first time since the referendum of 2016, it is clear that the UK will be leaving the European Union by the end of January. Here's the latest from party leaders.
Well, we did it. We did it. We pulled it off, didn't we? We pulled it off. We broke the deadlock. We ended the gridlock. We smashed the roadblock. And in this glorious, glorious pre-breakfast moment, before a new dawn rises on a new day and a new government, I want first of all to pay tribute to good colleagues who lost their seats through no fault of their own in the elections just gone by. And I, of course, want to congratulate absolutely everybody involved in securing the biggest Conservative majority since the 1980s. Which was literally, as I look around, literally before many of you were born.
Brexit has so polarised and divided debate in this country. It has overridden so much of a normal political debate. And I recognise that has contributed to the result that the Labour Party has received this evening all across this country. I want to also make it clear that I will not lead the party in any future general election campaign. I will discuss with our party to ensure there is a process now of reflection on this result and on the policies that the party will take going forward. And I will lead the party during that period to ensure that discussion takes place and we move on into the future.
But let me say now, for millions of people in our country, these results will bring dread and dismay, and people are looking for hope. I still believe that we, as a country, can be warm and generous, inclusive and open, and that by working together with our nearest neighbours, we can achieve so much more. Liberal Democrats will continue to stand up for these values that guide our liberal movement: openness, fairness, inclusivity. We will stand up for hope.
Well, first of all, big congratulations to Boris Johnson and all those Conservative candidates who work so hard. It's an extraordinary result, a powerful result. It marks the end of Corbyn and Corbynism, and that's a very good thing for the country. But more to the point, it gives us a very strong and decisive government and the opportunity to build the dynamic economy and the good public services that we need in Britain. And that's the most important thing of all, winning the trust of people that have put their trust in us, many of them for the first time, and Boris will have my full support as he does that.
The pound reacted as you would expect it to react. I don't think an 80-odd seat majority was priced in. Markets were pricing in around about a 20 to 40 seat majority, and that's why we saw the run-up in the pound from around about 129 to 131, 132 over the course of the past few days. But the scale of the exit poll, I think, caught an awful lot of the market still very, very short of pounds. As a result, we saw a very rapid move to 135. And I think that the extent of that move and the fact that we've hit a 3-year high against the euro suggests that the markets are very happy with that outcome.
Joining me to discuss last night's shocking victory and, more importantly, to assess what this means for the UK economy is Daniel Ogoloma, an entrepreneur and, of course, political activist Lagun Akinloye. And joining us via Skype from Macclesfield is David Smith, chairman of the British African Business Alliance. Welcome, guys. David, you've been waiting a long time. Let me come to you first. What's your initial reaction?
Well, I tell you, I went to bed last night with a degree of confidence that the exit poll would actually deliver what it suggested. But given recent polling failures, I didn't go to bed completely confident. And I think that when I went into the polling booth at 9:30 last night, choosing who I was voting for and why I was voting was extremely difficult. And I think that what we've experienced is the politics of division for the last 3 years. It's really nice to think that we have a political leader who talks about unity, who talks about bringing people together, who is expressing policies that not only talk about the importance of business, but also the rather softer social elements which have been completely overrun by the reactions to the recession and the need for cuts year on year throughout the social services side of our economy.
OK, David, you're a businessman. So just to be clear, are you happy with Boris Johnson's victory or not?
Oh, I'm very happy with it.
Okay.
Yes.
OK.
I think that of the choices that we were given, it is the best choice. And I'm delighted that there was such a significant level of support for him from all areas of society. I think the pressure is now on us to make sure that he delivers on the policies that he's put forward.
Very lastly, David, before I bring it into the studio, you spoke about the exit polls there. As soon as the exit poll was announced at 10 p.m. local last night, the pound surged. I think at the moment, as we're recording, it's trading at about $1.34. What's your response to that?
Well, I think that can only be good news. I think for the last 3-4 years, we've had a situation where no one has had any certainty. We now have some certainty. When we have certainty, we can build confidence. As we build confidence and we can think about the issues of creating wealth, I think there are some really serious opportunities for Africa. I think beyond the continent, the most important opportunities are with the business professionals in the African community, in the UK and the wider diaspora. OK,
well, David Smith, thank you so much. David Smith is the chairman of the British African Business Alliance. Hopefully next time you can join us in the studio. Let me bring in you, Lagun Akinloye, analyst. You know, I know you had a watch party last night. It was a high-stakes gamble, and clearly it's paid off for Boris Johnson.
It seems that the campaign went well for him, obviously. If you saw the resounding result, if you saw the bluster and the energy and the drive that he was putting through during the campaigning period, it can be said that it's a job well done on his behalf. And the Tory party and their gains throughout Labour strongholds and in areas previously never even taken by the...
For a century.
For a century, yeah. Therefore, on their behalf, they ran a great campaign, and the British people have shown and have spoken for what they want for their leader, for their future and for their country.
Absolutely. Daniel, you're an entrepreneur. You're, yes, I would say, probably in a minority of young blacks living in London, yeah, who support the Tories. Yeah. What do you envision the next 5 years of a Conservative government to look like?
I mean, going back to last night's election, I think what we've seen is the British people don't want chaos anymore. The British people want to respect the 2016 referendum, and the British people want to move this country forward. I mean, it was a landslide victory. I think that's the lowest Labour have ever... That's the
since the 1930s, yes. Since
the 1930s, and that's because we just want to move the country forward. But looking at me, from my perspective, what I see is I see a better Britain for business. I see lower tax, lower corporation tax, and I see a Britain that's open for business not just here, but globally as well.
So the paralysis, the stagnation has finally been lifted.
Exactly.
There's a weight off the shoulder. I suppose people in the city would say that. Like, and Boris Johnson himself said that he understands that he's borrowed votes from people, from constituencies that never would have voted Tory. Obviously, the Tories are seen as the party for the rich, and it's the working class voters, especially in the Midlands and up north, who have voted for him. How is he, over the next 5 years, going to appease them? Are we going to see, extra funding in welfare? Are we going to see this overhaul of the NHS that he's promised?
I think overall the vast switch of, as you said, the working class to Boris Johnson was kind of surprising, purely because to a certain extent, yes, the Conservative Party are a party of aspirations. They're a party perceived to be of the elite and to be more business orientated. And Jeremy Corbyn, to his defence, did put forward a people orientated, socialist, ultra left wing manifesto and campaign, which in essence was meant to, take care of the people of the lowest rung of society, which have often been neglected time and time again. But it seems that it was not only a referendum on Brexit, it was a referendum on Jeremy Corbyn's ability to lead the country. And people just did not believe that he was the man who could not only follow through with his plans and his agenda, but lead them to the El Dorado of sorts.
You said it before when we were discussing earlier this week that, that 2017, the shift in period is dramatic. It wasn't that, Jeremy Corbyn, that song. Things had changed. We'll talk about Jeremy Corbyn a little bit later. Daniel, let me bring you in again. If you look at London, the map, there is a map that shows Tory blue across the country, but London being particularly red. There are 73 constituencies here. I think Liberal Democrats got about 3 seats, including Richmond. But considering London is the capital, London is the financial centre, London hasn't voted in the way the rest of the country have. Do you think that's an important aspect of this entire result?
Yes, I do. I think, but what I've seen in this election is I've seen a lot of young people voting for Labour because they've seen a lot of influence. I've seen the likes of Stormzy, I've seen many different influencers, musicians that have been able to...
All over my Twitter, my entire algorithm was vote red.
They've been able to influence the younger population, the young footballers, the young entrepreneurs, the young business people, the people that are in colleges and looking to go to university, students. And I think they have really, really helped Labour in the London vote. And of course, what we've seen is on the outside of London, where there's more mature voters, more middle class. Middle England.
You don't have to mince your words.
Middle England voters, they've stuck with what they know, they stuck with what they believe in, and they just want to move the country forward.
But it's important, isn't it? I spoke about my social media, Lagan, and I'm sure, there are many people that have woken up really angry. They feel as if they just don't understand this. But London is the capital, and London is painted in red today.
London, let's not fool ourselves, is the most multicultural and metropolitan city in the UK. I think it's 38% of Londoners are from abroad, Africa, Middle East, Asia, and many of them are not struggling to get by, but understand the issues that Jeremy Corbyn talks about housing, about the queues of the NHS, about the ability to lift yourself up from a position of poverty going upwards. And they see that there is not a lack of care from the Tory party for their plight, but they will not shake off the historical belief that the Tory party does not represent their views and aspirations. Londoners, 70% of black people or BAME people vote for Labour in general, full stop, without thinking about other options, about considering what other options could be available for them at the end of the day. And yes, there is the same way in America when people in Hollywood and celebrities were behind Hillary Clinton. Because sometimes certain people speak to different demographics at the end of the day. But the same way that Hollywood went all out for Hillary Clinton and she lost, it's the same way that the urban music world and the Twitterati and, the social media goons, some may call them, were not able to influence the outcome because Britain is larger than London.
Yeah.
We've seen that before, haven't we? Well, coming up, we'll be talking about what went wrong for Jeremy Corbyn and, of course, Brexit. See you after the break. Welcome back to Channels Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. Today, we're only talking about the UK general election. Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson secured a crushing victory last night as voters backed his promise to get Brexit done and take the country out of the European Union by the 31st of January next year. Joining me in the studio, Daniel Ogoloma, an entrepreneur and political activist, Lagun Akinloye. Lagun, we spoke briefly about Jeremy Corbyn and London, the London map, because London is painted red, and we've got to be honest about that because we are in London. But what went wrong? Before he went into this campaign, he was polled as the most unpopular opposition leader in decades. The result has shown that he's had the lowest number of seats since 1935. Very left. Some of his policy pledges included raising taxes, part nationalisation, which literally scared the you-know-what out of the city, and a radical welfare reform. Was that the problem?
I think, first of all, we have to wish Jeremy Corbyn well on his next endeavours for the sheer reason that his political career has come to an abrupt end.
Do you think so? At
the highest level. He's been an MP since 1983, and maybe he should think about something else personally. That's my own opinion, but you know, his time as Labour leader was mixed. From speaking to a few people, one of the benefits people are saying is that he was never a leader in terms of a political leader in the way that we've become accustomed to. But at the same time, what he has done is brought issues to the table that generally were not part of the discourse of politics. In terms of injustice, in terms of the social awareness, in terms of the morality returning to politics at the end of the day. He managed to galvanise a big amount of people who previously were not engaged in politics or who did not understand what it was. And I think that...
Why didn't they go out and vote?
They did go out and vote, I think, but at the same time, the same people who he brought into politics had a knock-on effect of people turning away from him. He was uncommittal in various aspects, like the EU, the Brexit. Nobody actually knew where he stood on it, and his dithering was seen as indecisiveness. And what do people need in a time of, need and rancour? They need a leader who shouts, "Get Brexit done." And Jeremy Corbyn wasn't able to get the sound bites. He was not able to, galvanise.
It was a disastrous campaign.
It was on the whole, and it's quite sad to see Labour lose so many seats because a viable opposition is what is required for a country.
That's a really important point. I want you to pick up on that, Daniel, because we need a viable opposition, especially in one of the world's largest economies. The economy has struggled over the past 12 months, but, Britain is still big. And, of course, to think that we have a strong Conservative government over the next 5 years and a Labour Party that doesn't really know where it is at the moment. It's gone too far to the left under Jeremy Corbyn. Well, that's what a lot of Labour politicians were thinking. Where do you see Labour going now?
Listening to what Jeremy Corbyn said last night about him stepping down and not taking Labour to another election, I think what the Labour Party need to do is, like he said, reflect on this catastrophe. And I think they need to bring about a new Labour. They need to bring about...
a more centred Labour, the kind of Labour we saw with Tony Blair, Gordon Brown?
Exactly. I think, like Lagun said, his beliefs are... He's bringing in things that aren't really involved with today's politics, the injustice, the inequalities.
That's important, isn't it? Because not everybody can get into the city. Not everybody has money for a coffee every morning. Yeah. These issues are really important. And again, who is going to be tackling Boris Johnson and a strong Conservative government? Either of you.
In my mind, I was thinking about options and what Labour has right now. And truth be told, I used to be and still am a big fan of David Miliband, Ed's brother, who has fought.
Is he in America now?
He sought refuge in New York as the president of a well-known global refugee foundation. He was a great foreign secretary under Tony Blair. And Labour needs to, from my point of view, move away from the radical left. The ones that Corbyn, the Corbynistas, as they call it, who are the ones who want to nationalise government properties, who want to tax the rich, which was a huge thing that many people were extremely upset about.
Even those that didn't have much money were still scared.
People who wanted to have money were scared. Which is enough to let you know that it didn't key into it. David Miliband and Labour Party, in order for them to rejuvenate, need to bring themselves from the far left back to the centre ground and reclaim the middle ground in terms of the conversation about what Britain wants, and actually feel the pulse of the people and understand that if the Tories are not providing the way out for many people, there needs to be somebody who can key into that message.
There's got to be an option, isn't there?
And options right now...
they're limited, and we know that Jo Swinson, the former leader of the Liberal Democrats who lost her seat, isn't one of them. Let's move on from that and discuss the buzzword of 2019, 2018, 2017, 2016, Brexit. We're leaving. Whether people like it or not, on the 31st of January, as soon as the exit polls were out, early trading, FTSE 250 was up by over 850 points, FTSE 100 up by over 100 points. Businesses now can breathe a sigh of relief because finally something's going to happen.
Yes, something is going to happen, and we are leaving. I mean, there's going to be a transition period, of course, and negotiations will continue. But I trust Boris Johnson's ability to get the best
Wow.
for the UK.
You trust Boris Johnson's ability. That's a soundbite for you.
I trust Boris Johnson's ability to get the best deal for the UK. And I thank the British people for trusting him as well. And definitely, I believe that with the free trade deals that we're going to agree with, I think, Japan, America, and Switzerland being the main countries that we're trying to home in on. I think for businesses and for entrepreneurs, for startups, and I've heard him say many times that he wants to make Britain a startup country, a country for people who want to dream beyond Britain. It's amazing to see, and I'm
he's promised a lot, as they all have, haven't they, Lagan?
Let it be known that you are completely correct in your assumption that the Conservative Party are the apt party to navigate the difficult waters of economic progress.
Why do you say that?
Because they are not the party of the rich per se, but...
Well, they are.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to be a bit kinder. They are pro-business. Within them, they are economic management skills are geared towards the neoliberal capitalist aspect of the modern world, in which they look towards capitalism as a way of pulling people out of poverty. But also let it be known, I'm not the best economist, but what will happen will be a growth in inequality.
Wow.
In Britain.
Wow.
Purely because that...
Brexit, or because of the austerity from the Conservatives?
Brexit and the continuation of the Conservative government will lead in a gulf in income inequality throughout Britain, I think personally. They say that if you must spend to create jobs at the same time, but the social blanket, I think, is the right of everyone in Britain at the end of the day. And there are people who, for example, they've cut disability benefits, they've cut, income support, they've gone around taking...
It's not been cut, but it's not been increasing, has it?
It's not being increasing. If they get the economic management right, then yes, they could, people of the middle class will come up to a high level at the end of the day.
But do you know what? Lagan, that's quite frightening. That's quite scary if you put it like that. And to be honest with you, we've been seeing it with the figures. We've been seeing, everybody's been shouting it off the rooftop that, a majority Conservative government, Brexit, it's going to leave your pay packet at the end of the year about £6,000, less fat. But it didn't seem to trickle through to voters, did it?
Brexit was a huge issue. Obviously, I think people have grown tired. There was Brexit fatigue. People just wanted to. You underestimate the need to fall behind a leader at the end of the day. The need of the masses to actually believe in somebody. Okay, let's just get it through. Let's just, follow somebody who we believe will be the right captain of the country's ship.
Well, and we know that the captain of the ship now is Boris Johnson, the strongest Conservative Prime Minister since Margaret Thatcher. He's definitely going to be having a fantastic Christmas, isn't it? But, with this strength does come, authority and power, and we know what power can do to some leaders.
I think what the British people have seen is a new style of leadership in Boris Johnson. When he went to the Queen and he stopped Parliament, when he speaks authoritatively, when he says we're going to get Brexit done, when he says things that are almost Trump-like, and we look at him as, oh, hold on, are we selling ourselves to America? Is he like the younger version of Trump? I think we need a leader like that.
Wow.
I think we need an authoritarian kind of leader that has his mind set out.
Well, we've got that leader, guys. Our time has run short, I'm afraid. Thank you so much for joining me for this UK election special. The results are in. Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, has an overwhelming majority, and sadly, that's all we have time for today. But do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channels Business Global. Goodbye.